Super Metroid was a game changer when it came out. Compared to the original Metroid, it was a step up in every single way. It had better graphics, gameplay, exploration, and a better story. Metroid solely created this idea of having a huge interconnected map that slowly but surely will open up as you start to gain more powers. Castlevania also followed a very similar pattern, though their games used to be extremely linear, and you always play as a Belmont wearing the legendary whip Vampire Killer. As Metroid, Castlevania also had a game-changer moment, Symphony of the Night. It was astounding when it came out because this game is radically different from all the previous ones. It is a total shift from what the games used to be. Symphony of the Night is such a great and timeless game that a new genre was born, Metroidvanias. All Metroidvanias take a lot of inspiration from both Super Metroid and Symphony of the Night. Exploration and interconnectivity, tight gameplay, and discovering new powers to further go into the levels. I think it's clear that I really like both games because you can jump and play them right now and neither will feel dated. Both have aged like fine wine thanks to the gameplay and presentation. Another franchise that has particularly aged well is Prince of Persia, especially the Sands of Time trilogy. Back then, there weren't many parkour-themed games, and the fact that the game went from a 2D side-scroller to 3D action parkour while keeping the core elements of the original game was really impressive. So, it was really surprising when Ubisoft announced a new Prince of Persia game. We haven't seen a new one since almost 2010 when they released The Forgotten Sands. I never played that one because I remember being extremely disappointed with Prince of Persia. The game has the same roots as the Sands of Time trilogy, and it has a lot of cool visuals and parkour elements, but I remember disliking the fact that you cannot die in the game. Yeah, that's right, I still don't understand what the developers were thinking about, but in that game, literally, it's impossible to die. Each time that you are on the verge of dying, this lady rescues you every single time without any type of penalty. I remember quitting the game less than 2 hours because it put me off having an easy mode turned on all the time. I think that this game helped to put off people from the franchise and even more with the poor reception of The Forgotten Sands. So, when I started to play in The Lost Crown, I wasn't expecting anything at all. I wasn't even planning on making this video. I just tried it from pure curiosity. And I'm glad I did, because this game is one of the best Metroidvanias that I play in a while. Maybe this is a hot take, but Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, it's much better than Metroid Dread. Before continuing, I want to clarify that this video will have full spoilers. If you haven't played the game, go ahead and do it. I can 100% assure you that you will have fun. Afterwards, come back and keep watching. Unlike previous games, our main character has a name, Sargon. The plot of the game is simple. Prince Hassan is kidnapped by Sargon's mentor, Anahita. She takes him into Mount Quaff, a very big and important citadel that was struck with a curse. The main objective of the game is to rescue the prince and leave Mount Quaff. After entering the mount, we will notice that something is wrong with this place, and we quickly realize that there is a problem with time itself. So, we need to use everything in our arsenal to traverse this cursed land. Sargon is part of a group called Immortals, a group of exceptionally great fighters. As in other games, Sargon can charge his attacks. If you do it before attacking, he will do a long-range attack, but if you do it after the first attack, his charge will change from being long-range to being a rush attack. If you charge it pointing down while in the air, he will slam the floor. As you see from the get-go, we can tell that the game has a more complex combat system than your regular Metroidvania. In most of them, it is common that our playable character changes weapons and they have different abilities, but for the most part, they have simple attacks. In other words, you just press the attack button and that's pretty much it. Sargon has the standard 3 combo attack, but once you start to play, you will notice that you can do more than that. He also has a fun running attack. To run, we have to keep press R2, and if we attack, he will do a slide kick that is extremely similar to the one that Richard does. If you keep attacking, he will do his regular 3 combo attack. But if you decide to change his direction after the slide, he will do a reverse kick and then proceed to do the standard 3 combo attack. If you do a down attack, he will slash the floor and do a kick that then you can chain it with a regular 3 combo attack, or you can do this. Again, this may be seen as minor, but we have to take into consideration that this isn't the norm with most Metroidvanias, and this was one of the biggest surprises when I played. Now that I think about it, I shouldn't be that surprised, because this game took a lot of inspiration from the Sands of Time trilogy, and those games have complex combat systems tied with fun time mechanics. But the combos don't end there. Since there's a time anomaly, we will learn time-based abilities. The first one is Rush of the Simurgh. It allows us to dash forwards or backwards in the air. This is important in combat because when you do a 3 air combo attack, the enemy is launched forwards to prevent you from doing an endless combo. So if we dash immediately after a 3 combo air attack, you will close yourself to the enemy to do another 3 air combo attack. Another good way to connect air combos is with the bow. After some hours, we will find it, and it's great for airborne enemies and to expand your aerial combo. If you do a 2 combo attack followed by 1 shot of the bow, the game will allow you to start over your combos. I think this is fantastic because it allows the player to do lengthy combos without any type of restriction, as long as you have the ability, hand and eye coordination, and no other enemies are hitting you. A very interesting power is called Shadow of the Simurgh. If we press L1, we create a copy of Sargon, and by pressing L1 again, we will return to the shadow. The shadow will maintain whatever we did before creating it. When I say whatever, I really mean it. It's crazy how this simple system allows you to do so much, and in fact, the shadow will come handy to maneuver dangerous attacks and solve some puzzles. The next ability is Dimensional Claw. By pressing circle, Sargon will capture whatever object or enemy is in front of him. You can grab bombs or explosives that are in the area, or you can grab whatever the enemy tosses at you. You can keep it stored and later use it. In this way, you will open up new areas by tossing explosives to certain walls, or if you directly take an enemy, it will temporarily be your ally. Clairvoyance is the next ability. This one is only useful in certain places that have walls or traps with a distinct light purple color. When activated, Sargon will be able to interact with elements from other dimensions. In combat terms, it really won't be helpful at all. Then we have Gravity Wings, which is your classic double jump. It is unlocked very late into the game. For a very good time, you won't feel the need of having it because you can get away with a regular jump and dashing. Something I forgot to mention earlier is that Sargon can wall jump, and it will be easier once you have the dash ability. That's why you never feel the need of immediately having the double jump. Another thing I forgot to mention is the chakram. You will unlock it at the same time as the bow, and the reason why I forgot it is that you will rarely use this weapon because the damage it does is close to zero. The real utility of the chakram comes in 2 ways. There are certain locks that you can only unlock by throwing the chakram. The second utility is a hidden ability that allows Sargon to teleport while using the chakram. The final ability of the game is called Fabric of Time. Essentially, it's a whip.
Oh dear mother, what is this?
From certain marketplace, it will allow him to whip and jump around like a crazy man. If you press R1, Sargon will go to the target, but if we keep it pressed, Sargon will pull the target. Remember the combos? With the whip, you can do this. Yeah, you can potentially do an infinite combo with the whip, making the air dash combo absolutely useless. Sargon can also parry. You can literally parry any type of attack, no matter what. The only exception of the rule is when the enemy makes a red attack. Also, if you make a bad timing with your parry, Sargon will be open to receive extra damage. Sometimes enemies do yellow attacks. If you parry those, Sargon will instantly KO regular enemies, and with boss fights, they either will activate something special or they will do massive damage. Overall, I feel pretty happy with the parry. It's really tight and precise, but you need to understand the enemy's patterns to make the most of it. By now, you have noticed that when I parry, there is this big blue thing that appears out of nowhere. Also, my regular attacks have a long range attack, and the bow fires more than one arrow. That happens because you can equip amulets that change or improve your abilities. All of them can be upgraded twice. There is a large variety of amulets, like one that extends the amount of combo attacks that you can do, heal you every time that you parry, make more damage, etc. So yeah, that blue bubble thing is an amulet that slows down enemies when you parry. You are free to choose and change them anytime you want to, but you need to do a lot of exploration to find parts to upgrade the maximum amount of spaces of your amulet. Plus, you can only change them in the Wak Wak trees. Wak Wak trees are the save points of the game. Each time that you interact with one, the game automatically saves it and it will regenerate your HP, your potions and arrows, and enemies will respawn. A good detail that I really like is that when you are close to a tree, you can see this gust of golden wind. That means that a tree is nearby. Something I've learned the hard way is to always go as soon as possible to a Wak Wak tree before exploring. Besides changing your amulets, save and refill, the tree will be the point of respawn if you die. It happened to me many times that I didn't activate the tree and I had to backtrack 5 or 10 minutes to the last location I was. Another thing you can do in the tree is change your Aether Surge. Aether Surge are the special attacks that you can cast once you fill up the bar that is on the lower right corner. There are 3 tires, with the last ones being the most powerful ones. To recharge them, all you need to do is to attack enemies. If you parry, it will refill much faster, but if you receive any type of damage while the bar is filling, it will go down. Also, each time that you die, it will be fully empty when you respawn. Commonly, in order to get a new surge, you have to fight yourself. And I'm not kidding, literally, you have to fight alternative Sargons that will grant a new surge with each defeat. Sometimes doing a refill is a little bit annoying, especially if you are constantly getting hit, but it's not that bad. After defeating an enemy, they will drop a resource called Time Crystals. In essence, they're the money of the game. You can use the crystals to buy or enhance your weapons and amulets. In the central hub of the game, there's a Magi store. Here, you can buy more HP potions and enhance the healing effect. At the beginning, you will be able to carry 1 potion, but by the end of the game, you will be able to carry 5. The blacksmith will enhance your weapons and your amulets. You will know exactly what it's going to be enhanced because it is highlighted in yellow. Another important element of the game is the Eye of the Wanderer. We will get it very early, and in essence, it's the map of the game. As you may expect, the game uses Fog of War, so we just need to explore to see more of it. The Eye of the Wanderer also comes with an option to take screenshots. As other modern games, you can put up to 100 different marks on the map, so I was confused with the screenshot mechanic. But in reality, they're really useful if you need a visual reminder of a particular area. A final mechanic of the game never explains, but you can feel it while playing, is having ordered actions. Like Dark Souls, once you start an action, you can't cancel the animation. You have to wait for Sargon to finish it to do the next one. This will be noticeable with the 3rd attack. If you do it, there's no way to cancel it, and if there is an incoming damage, you will take it. The same is with the parry animation. Once you start it, you cannot cancel it. In this way, the games provide balancing and Sargon isn't a total machine of destruction. Honestly, this was never a big issue. It's not like Dark Souls where every single action cannot be cancelled. Here, it's more like, are you sure that you want to finish the combo or do that parry? Overall, those are all the things related to the gameplay mechanics. From the start, Sargon is well equipped with skills, abilities and weapons, and the pacing to unlock more ways to fight and traverse areas is really solid. At no point I felt stuck or underpowered, nor did I hit a huge roadblock that prevented me from continuing the game. Even if you decide to not fully explore the mountain, the base skills and the abilities that you naturally unlock plus the smart allocation of amulets will make you a menace. But as powerful as Sargon is, the enemies are equally powerful. At the beginning, they will be slow and easy to defeat. The very first enemies, essentially, are the same as the zombies that you usually fight at the beginning of Castlevania. Little by little, their difficulty will ramp up. They will start to have more complexity and more patterns of attacks. Some of them do slow and powerful attacks, while others are agile and very quick. To me, the most annoying ones are the enemies that hit you from afar. The enemy's variety and appearance will also change depending on the location that we are. In the starting area, enemies are humanoids and are very similar to what you expect from an enemy from the franchise. They wear traditional clothes, wear axes, bows, and scimitars. The deeper we go, the more interesting they will become. For the most part, they will remain as humanoids, but little by little we will start to face creatures. I really like the big variety and that they were always thematically connected with the area we are currently in. I never thought that an enemy felt out of place or did weird actions and attacks. I wish the game had some type of book or track record of all the enemies that you fought, showing you the amount you destroyed plus a little bit of lore. I hope this is added in the future, but I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't. Also, as dangerous as the regular enemies are, the bosses test your combat finesse. At the beginning, they're very slow and they have predictable patterns like Jahadar and General Ovishka, which both act as tutorial boss fights. But once you start to progress, the fights become more difficult and frantic. A great example is Kiana. She will have very recognizable patterns, but the more the fight goes on, the more difficult it will become until she hits the last quarter of her HP when she will unleash several attacks at the same time. Personally speaking, I enjoyed almost all the boss fights, but I think they're few and far between. I thought that we were going to have a boss fight per area, but nope. There will be times where you can play up to 4 or 5 hours and never encounter a boss. Granted, I always try to fully explore before continuing. The good news is that there are plenty of mini-bosses. The bad news is that most of them are nothing special. They're really simple and forgettable. Though, this particular dude in the archive was really awesome. He reminded me a lot from the back dudes from Bloodborne. As them, they hit really hard, and if they grab you, you're gonna be teleported to the prison. Anyhow, to me, the bosses that really tested all that you've learned are Melonias, Orod, and Bahram. Melonias has a lot of ranged homing attacks that force you to constantly keep dodging and moving around while using the Shadowed ability. You have to react quickly to avoid his ranged attacks, evade the bombs that he may put into the scenery, and time your attacks to avoid being locked into an animation. While Melonias is all about ranged attacks, Orod is more about AoE. Rewatching my footage, Orod actually reminds me of fighting death, with a very long range attacks and frantic movements. The real final challenge of the game is Bahram. Very early on you fight him, and no matter what, it is an unwinnable fight, but eventually we will do this fight again. By the time the second fight happens, the player and Sargon have changed and grown a lot. Your skills and ability will be vastly superior than the first time you tried, which makes the second round more deadly because Bahram will use all his force. He will teleport around, create time bubbles, make delay attacks that leave traces behind, etc. It really is a fight that puts into test all what you've learned. This second fight is my favorite of the game, not only because of the challenge, but because Bahram will use a very interesting power. I was really excited because we haven't seen the rewind ability since the Sands of Time trilogy. I actually wish Bahram used it more during the fight, but I cannot deny that it was really cool to watch such an iconic power being used by the main antagonist. The final boss of the game will be Bahram himself, but godlike. It is the same as before, but way harder because every time that you defeat him, he will keep rewinding and he will get more powerful. I actually think it was a mistake that after 3 or 4 tries, you finally beat him. I wish that we had to do something clever to prevent him from rewinding. And since I'm talking about this, I have a lot of issues with the time mechanic and with the story itself. Prince of Persia has never fully explored the time mechanics. In the Sands of Time trilogy, the time mechanic is to rewind, which is tied to the prince. You use it to save yourself from death, or to complete certain puzzles, but it never goes deep. The same issue is here. You will never feel the pressure of time in the game, even though you encounter plenty of NPCs that keep saying that they've been exploring this place for days or weeks since we originally entered, even though the player and Sargon knows that we have been here for hours. I thought that the game was gonna be into paradoxes and explaining that since we entered, Sargon has traveled back and forth, but they never go that route. I feel they could have done more of that instead of just random NPC telling us that time is different. I wish that there were rooms where we can see them decay as we traverse or something like that. They could have made an entire section where someone steals our weapons and for a while we have to rely on our skills and kicks, up until we get them again, only to find out much later that the person who stole it is us because in the future a particular boss fight destroyed them or something like that. Another example is Orod and Melania's fights. Both are part of the Immortal group and early on, Bahram kills Hassan and convinces everyone that we did it. Most of them don't even question it because he's the leader, but by the time we fight these two Dumbos, I feel like Sargon never truly tries to really convince them. With Orod, I wish he went mad fighting us over and over, by just adding a simple line saying, "I have fought you 99 times and this is the last one. I'm going to avenge Hassan and save this place," would have been enough to show the player that Orod has gone crazy. Instead, it feels forced. I just don't buy that our allies snap that quickly, and because we truly never interact with them, it seems out of nowhere. Sadly, the narrative of the game is really weak. Since you're on your own and you barely encounter random NPCs that really don't add too much, I wasn't invested in the story. I really didn't care about rescuing the prince, the plot twists, or trying to understand what's going on. By playing the game, you can tell that the main focus of the devs was the gameplay, which is really exceptional, but the general story, the pacing, the presentation, and the NPCs that we encounter is, by far, the biggest problem of the game. You can literally mute the game and have a documentary in the background, and your game experience won't change that much, nor it won't be a detriment to the enjoyment of the game. Also, the ending of the game is pure crap. The entire story just feels like an afterthought. But besides the main quest, we have some side quests. 3 of them are obtaining secret sand, hunting captains, and puzzle chests. With the sand one, the point is getting all these vessels that have this magic sand. Gathering them is really tricky because they're cleverly hidden. The good thing is that on the map, we can know how many sand vessels are left in any level. Once you get them all, the reward will be crystals, some pieces to upgrade your HP, and having a little bit of lore. Once you finish the mural, we can tell that this is the only occasion in the game that the people of the past made this mural about the events that are happening right now, and in essence, the mural shows the end of the game. Finally, the chests are some of the hardest puzzles because there's not a tutorial. You just have to take in the clues that are in the environment to get the chest. In total, there are 9 chests, and being 100% transparent, the only time that I look up a guide was with this particular puzzle because I couldn't understand what to do. By far, the puzzle chest and environmental traps were really fun to do. Actually, let's talk a little bit more about the rooms themselves. I have to plot all the backgrounds of all the different levels. None of them are static, and there's always something interesting going on. Some rooms are really special, and you can tell by looking at the map. The backgrounds are just magnificent. They're so well done that it gives this impression that the levels are bigger and more complicated than what they truly are. So, as you can see, there's a lot of variety between the levels. You have your standard catacombs, further exploring the city, a snow setting, a library, etc. It's undeniable that they took a lot of inspiration from other Metroidvanias. I think that they took a lot of the pacing from Metroid and added the aesthetics and challenges from Castlevania. Of all the levels, I have to say that 2 of them were my favorite. Early on in the game, we go into the Sacred Archives. It is your standard library level. The fun part is that some of the places have platforms that activate and deactivate depending if you go left or right. I fucking love this so much because it makes a light challenge and forces you to think and not be aimlessly running or jumping around since you have to time your movements to continue. These remind me a lot of braid mechanics. Much later in the level, we'll find these red panels that, when you close them, a huge block will come. At the beginning, they're really easy to avoid, and some of them will present a slight challenge of having to activate them to eventually use them as platform. Other places will have an entire line of them that you just have to run or wall jump to not get squished. in my opinion, the hardest room in the game is here. You can enter this particular room after you get double jump. We will enter this room, and oh my god. As you can see, there's a pit with spikes, and there's nothing but red blocks. So somehow, we need to activate them and use them as platforms while jumping and dashing at the same time. It took me about 3 tries to get to the central part of the room, but after this, it's really challenging. To the right, we need to do some wall jumps with dashes and use the dimensional ability to continue. I realized very quickly that it's not a big deal, and all you need is a lot of hand and eye coordination to wall jump, dash and change the dimension at the same time. After a couple of tries, I was able to finally get to the end of the right side and get the Cersei's coin, but I was 100% stuck trying to go upstairs. I tried many combinations, but I couldn't understand how to activate that red block that was super far away and be on top at the same time. It may seem obvious now, but at the moment, I tried everything but the obvious answer. To explain what to do, let me tell you first how to get there. From this position, we jump and activate the block. Then we jump and dash to the right to activate this block while we double jump backwards. We will land on top of the block, and then we click jump and activate the block and double jump to be on top of the block, and then we can just dash and double jump backwards to get into this wall, and then dash and double jump to either go to the lower right wall, or if you already know what to do, you dash and activate the red block, double jump, land in the top, and jump into the right wall. All of this seems really complicated when you write it, but it gets worse because getting here, it's relatively easy. From the top scaffold, you need to jump to the left, dash, activate the shadow, double jump and activate the red block, teleport back to the shadow and immediately double jump, land on the top of the block, immediately jump to the right, dash, activate the red block, double jump backwards to get into the block, jump to the left and dash, activating the red block, double jump backwards, land on the block, jump to the right and dash to get into the dimensional wall. It seems confusing and complicated in writing, but trust me when I say it is way worse when you have to do it. All of these actions took me about an hour to do. The worst part is that in order to get the other Cersei's coins, you have to do more crazy actions, and the worst of it is that you have to redo everything but backwards. If you ask yourself, why don't you just create a shadow and teleport back when you get the coin? Well, you can't. When I had one of these challenges for the first time, I did that, and when you teleport back, you don't teleport with the coin, so you have to fully complete the challenge to get it. Personally speaking, I love this challenge. I love it so much that it really helped me to hone my jumping and dashing skills. After this room, no other challenge was nowhere near as difficult as this one, so I was breezing through all the other difficult rooms. Now, I said that this was one of my favorite rooms and locations. My favorite location is, hands down, Raging Sea. You come here after traversing the Pirate's Cove and after you learn the double jump ability. I wasn't expecting this whole new area. In fact, I thought that this was going to be a small optional place, but it truly surprised me that the concept of this area is that you're literally walking on the sea and in the middle of the destruction of these boats because time has fully stopped. I really love this concept of having an entire area that is literally still in time, and you can see that everything was going into hell when the curse happened. It was the level where I had the most fun, even though it was really linear. When I played this section, I felt nothing but shame that the devs didn't do this more in the game. Imagine rooms like this, they're absolutely still and you can walk and continue because of that. Or you can go crazy like Raid and time goes forwards or backwards if you go left or right. I hope that if they do a sequel, they add more rooms and locations with those ideas. Places where time makes no sense and you have to use your skills in combinations of the time anomaly to proceed or solve puzzles. Imagine a room where time quickly goes forward and if you keep going, you die of old age, or the reverse, you keep getting younger and younger. Now, since I talk a lot about the block puzzle room, I have to mention everything else. As I said, at the beginning the puzzles are going to be just jumping around and circumventing traps. By the end of the game, we will have entire sections full of traps that you have to avoid to continue. One of the coolest and hardest challenges is when you get double jump. All of those purplish crystals hurt you when you touch them, so you have to do a combination of jumps, dashes, and shadows to activate these pillars to either walk over them or use them to wall jump while avoiding getting hurt. Another challenging room that I really liked was this secret room on the lower section of the game. There are several spikes that will come in and out of the background and we have to avoid them. It will start very easily, but eventually we will need to do a combination of jumps with dashes while using the shadow skill to avoid getting hurt. It took me about 20 or 30 minutes to finally complete it, and I had a lot of fun memorizing and trying it over and over. A puzzle that isn't optional and you actually have to complete is close to the end of the game in this clock section. Close to the end of the game, we will encounter areas that need to be powered with this pink battery. The point of the clock puzzle is powering 3 different areas using the battery. Since the devs wanted to make a challenge, they put wooden walls so you cannot easily wall jump. Besides the chests and the block puzzles, this was another place where I had to fully stop and really think about how to use the same battery to activate platforms and the room at the same time. They were really great brain teasers that made some great use of my brain juice, and I hope that it's the same to you. As you saw, the game has a lot of variety in environment, the enemies, the challenges, and puzzles. Just because I didn't like the story and I wasn't able to connect with someone, not even Sargon, doesn't mean that the game is bad. There's a lot of fun between the action and the puzzles, and many times you really have to think. I highly encourage you to not look up answers and just keep trying until you start to figure out what to do. I said it before, but I will repeat it. The Lost Crown took a lot of inspiration from different Metroidvanias, but more importantly, it took a lot of inspiration from the original game. You can tell that the devs focused really hard in not only making a really good game and taking a lot of inspiration from the Sands of Time trilogy, but they went further back to the original. I saw some people complaining about the 2D aspect, but at its core, Prince of Persia was always a 2D game until the Time trilogy came out. I think it's refreshing having a traditional Prince of Persia back, and more when they beautifully executed the Metroidvania aspect. Something that wasn't that well executed are the graphics. It's not like they're bad, but they're okayish, and they could have been much better. But, to be fair, I played the Nintendo Switch version, so the quality will be a little bit lower than the PS or Xbox version, but overall, once again, they're okay. In certain cutscenes and conversations, instead of having the regular animations, the game will have some stylized designs next to the dialogue. I found it to be very cool, but something that bothered me is that after the first fight with Bahram, Sargon will get physically damaged, and the more we play, the more damaged and dirty Sargon will be. For whatever reason, this is never translated to the cooldown image. You can clearly see that Sargon is hurt, bloody and dirty, but his cooldown image will remain the same. This was a really odd choice because I don't think that it's that difficult to damage Sargon's cooldown image. But, as I said earlier in the video, while the graphics themselves are groundbreaking, the scenery and backgrounds are nothing but gorgeous. Something I really like is that since there's a time anomaly, there are certain details on the background that will reflect this. For example, we can see the sun defying gravity or this particular room that is both day and night at the exact same time, depending on what side you are on. So, even though the graphics itself are not the best, the style and presentation makes it up. The only time that you would really notice the lower quality is on cutscenes. The models looks very rough, and it's going to be more noticeable in the Switch version. Again, it wasn't a huge deal breaker to me, because literally, I wasn't expecting anything from the game. The music is extremely beautiful with many Persian tones, and the scenery, it will change depending on what stage we currently are. Most of the soundtrack is more atmospheric than anything else, and there isn't a clear leitmotif. Sadly, compared to the soundtrack of the Sands of Time, it's a little bit of a letdown, but as the graphic, it isn't a deal break to me. I hope that for a sequel, they improve both the graphics and the music as much as they can. So, should you play Prince of Persia: Lost Crown? Absolutely yes. I think it's clear that I really like it. It has a lot of potential, and I really hope that they make sequels that are more difficult, challenging, and fun. I just hope that they add more time mechanics, more challenges and puzzles, an option to quickly recall to the last save point, different weapons, and more aggressive enemies. Without a doubt, The Lost Crown is the first proper Prince of Persia game that came out since The Two Thrones, and I hope that the positive reception encourages the devs and the publisher to make more games. I know that Ubisoft was making a remake of Prince of Persia, but it was universally panned because of the poor graphics and the poor answers that Ubisoft made. After that, they shelved the game and haven't talked about it since then. By playing this game, you can immediately tell that they took a lot of inspiration from the Sands of Time. I just hope that the positive reception shows Ubisoft that we want more Prince of Persia, and as long as they make a really good game and not a quick cash grab, people will buy it. Assassin's Creed was possible thanks to Prince of Persia, and the franchise is as strong as when the first game came out. I hope that we can say the same thing about Prince of Persia, because the franchise, the games, and the concepts have a lot of potential. All they need is time to create a really good game. So, what are your opinions about the game? Did you play it? Do you agree or disagree with my little assessment? Thank you very much for watching, Paul. Don't forget that you can like and you can subscribe to the channel. If you want more, I made a video about Lies of P that I know that you will love. Or, if you want to know more about Ada Wong, I made an analysis and research about the latest Resident Evil 4 Remake DLC, Separate Ways. Go ahead and keep watching. I see you in whatever video I will post next.